Everyone, I'm D. Jamuna from the Department of English. This Asian literature e-content was about his spouse, which is a short story. This was written by Zawgyi. Now let's see about the author introduction. Zawgyi was born on 12th April 1907. He died on 26th September 1990. He was a distinguished and leading Burmese poet, author, literary historian, critic, scholar, and academician. His name, Zawgyi, refers to a mythical wizard from Burmese mythology. Now let's see about the characters of this short story. The main characters were Mappa, cousin, aunt, elder son, younger son, and his daughter. Now let's see about the summary of the short story, His Spouse. The short story begins with Mappa. She was the wife of cousin. She works in the market. Every morning she walks a mile to town with greens on a tray. If the business was brisk, she returned home early. Otherwise, only when the sun had declined, she would return home. Whenever she reached the bamboo bridge that crossed the stream beside the village on her return, she would thought of her husband and her children in her mind. Her husband was a man of leisure who only cooks and look after the children. He had been a novice in the Buddhist monastic order for 9 years. Mappa kept the shop and took care of her children and her husband's needs. Elder son would sometimes help her after his study by carrying a tray and basket to cross the bridge. Cousin never really worked, so at some times people made fun of him severely. So the words of the people hurt him a lot. So he decided to work. So he borrowed money from his cousin and entered in bamboo business, but he lost. Then he went to the fields to plow, but he returned home with blood dripping from his foot. This wound has taken 15 days to heal. Mappa went to market as usual. Her eldest son went to monastery to study while the other two children were playing in the ground. Cousin sat on the veranda in his house and he saw the carpenter, who is the father of 6 children, in the neighbor house. He carried his box of tools with him to work. Suddenly he saw the man from the next door cross the stream to cut Dani on the other bank. Even the old man from the opposite house whittled a piece of wood to make a fiddlestick. After seeing the man going to work, he suddenly felt foolish since he left the monastery and marrying Mappa, and his business failure and his foot hurt. At the time, he thought of becoming a monk. In market, she was earning hard to buy cheroots for her husband. At the time of his thought, he saw his children playing, so he thought of feeding them. So he went into the kitchen and started to cook. Then after feeding the children, he returned to his thought of becoming a monk. When he became a monk, he would come with his begging bowl to Mappa's house to get a chance to meet his family. Then he thought of teaching law to his illiterate and ignorant wife before he left the house, because she doesn't know anything about the law happening at the present time. At the time, he started to hear of the screaming of his children. They both were fighting, so he asked them to come inside. Then he made them to sit in the corner and went to his thoughts, but he couldn't pick up the chain of thought. Mappa returned home and she saw the daughter's hands were dirty while playing, so she asked her to come in. Then she made her to wash. At the time, he wanted to tell her what he felt, but he didn't dare to tell her until the year turned. 3 months though, Cousin went to monastery. He doesn't return back to her home. So Mappa's aunt would help her to look after the children while she was working in the market. Uh, many days gone. Aunt wants to get back to her village, so she wanted cousin to come back. She thought of um, Mappa made her aunt to become a slave, so she doesn't want to stay there. So she wanted to return home. She always started to pestering her to return to her village. Next day, Mappa didn't go to the market. Instead, she fried and cooked at home. She made herself beautiful, and her children too were dressed in clean clothes, and household items were packed. At the time, cousin, as a monk, came to her house at 10 o'clock with her elder son. He saw the packed household stuff, and he sat on the mat which Mappa's aunt gave him. Then Mappa came with the tray of food with sad eyes. She offered the food to him without looking at him. At the time, he noticed how neatly she was dressed up, but she doesn't look at him. He was puzzled with the behavior of Mappa. He thought she would request him to return to the normal life, but she doesn't say any word. She only asks the aunt when will the bullock cart man will arrive. At the time, he was so confused, so he asked her what's going on. Then she said that aunt wants to go to the village. If she is not here, then she and her two children will also go along with her. The elder son will be with his father. She said that her life and the Upasan's life was two different worlds. So she went near the elder son and said to obey the words of his father while studying in the monastery. She can take care of the other two children, and if possible, she can marry another man in the village. Cousin was very angry, and he said that she can't handle the drunkards in that village. So he said that he will return to his normal life. At the end, the monk who was cousin has returned to his normal life with his children and his wife. Thank you, everyone.